Hello, everyone. I am back from Chicago. It is now Thursday, so I've had a little bit of process time, recovery time after a really epic weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and do my best to kind of recap the whole weekend. Starting from when we got there, I have no notes in front of me. This is just all off the cuff, and yeah, so hopefully I don't just ramble on and give you guys a clear picture of just kind of how everything went and my emotions with everything and just the vibe of the weekend. So we arrived on Friday, so flew in from Denver. We were there in the afternoon, and we decided to take the train in versus an Uber. And on a Friday afternoon, you can imagine just traffic. So that was going to be the faster way to get over to the city. We ended up going to the hotel, checking in. We were only there for just a couple of minutes. And then we ended up getting an Uber over to the expo, which is a pretty good distance away from both our hotel and the start line. Once we got to the expo, we were there, I think the last hour. So we got there maybe around 5, and we ended up closing it down. It wasn't nearly as bad, busyness wise, of trying to get through everything. There weren't lines or anything like that. Yes, obviously there were a ton of people in there, but just getting in there and getting out of there wasn't too bad. It's just very large. You have to kind of walk far to get all of your things done. You're in a separate area in the beginning where you get your bib. There was security there in the security lines. If you didn't really have any bags or anything on you, it was super easy to get through. So I think the lines were maybe longer if you had to get bags checked or anything like that. So that was easy for us. We got through there. You get your bib, and then that's totally separate from getting your t-shirt. So basically they force you to have to go through the expo, past all the vendors. Makes sense, right? From a marketing standpoint and wanting to sell stuff. So we did that. And then I ended up getting this sweatshirt. We looked at all the Nike stuff. Jacqueline Renee, who I was with, they ended up getting a couple Nike things, I think. And then we left, and getting out of there was a little bit crazy with the number of people waiting for Ubers. It's really not walking distance back to Grant Park and kind of where our hotel was. I mean, you certainly could, but you wouldn't want to do that on a marathon weekend. But it seemed worse than it was. We got our Uber pretty quickly, and then we ended up going to dinner. We got deep dish pizza, the Chicago experience, and that was great. I think we got back to our hotel maybe just before 9. So it was just a really, really long day of travel, and it just kind of took a long time to get everything done. So just know that if you do end up coming in the day before the race, our friends ended up doing that. They just went straight to the expo. That's what I would recommend doing, just so you can check it off and get it done, because it's a lot. I went to bed, and we had the shakeout run in the morning. So I hosted a shakeout run. We were at Millennium Park and had a good group of people, and just really fun. And, some of my athletes were there, and also just some of you coming from, the YouTube channel and hearing about it from there. And we just had fun. One of the people, Tom, brought costumes, and people wore those. And, it's just a reminder of what running is really supposed to be about: community and connection, coming together, having joy, all of that, doing something good for your body and having fun at the same time. So we ran along the lakefront, which I really wanted to get to do because that's not part of the course for Chicago, and just really pretty. I want to just go back just for fun to Chicago and run along there. And it was sunny that day, which I loved, because I knew, the next day for the race was supposed to be cloudy and stuff. So just to see sun, especially coming from Colorado, we're used to so many sunny days, was great. And just a really cool city, and loved the vibe of that and the experience. And so any of you who came, thank you. It literally just made my day to meet you and to be together and get to do that. After that, got coffee. We went in the Tracksmith store for a little bit, didn't get anything. And then went back to our hotel, got ready, and we had a lunch planned with my team. So those athletes of mine who I coach one-on-one. I had 5 runners there. I think 4 of them came to the lunch. So 5 runners actually running the race. And then I also have 3 athletes who live in or near Chicago who were able to drive in for the lunch, and they were also spectating. So they were there. Coach Remy was there. He brought a friend, my husband. So we just had a fun group of 12 of us for lunch, and just a really surreal experience for me as a coach to be able to bring everybody together like that. And just kind of this moment of, oh my gosh, like thinking about where I started with a running blog, having no thought in my mind of coaching in the future when I started doing that, to it evolving to wanting to coaching, to trying to build that, having the YouTube channel and having crickets for a really long time. Someone said it on my live the other day, and it's something that's always in the back of my mind, that quote from Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. It's just like, that was my motto. So it was really cool that someone wrote that the other day. Like, I just kept telling myself that. And then when it started to come, I kept reminding myself of that. Keep building it. They'll keep coming. This is working exactly the way that you hoped that it would. Even if you didn't believe that it would, it was. So to actually just have this moment of, oh my gosh, like I've brought these people together, and they're the most amazing humans. And just to have that feeling of, they trust me with something that's so important to them. It's such an honor to be able to be a small part of their journeys, and just really full of gratitude. And in that moment was very much of, with the shakeout run before, the lunch with them was very much like, no matter what happens tomorrow in the race, like, I'm just so thankful. This is amazing. And I'm so happy, and just really, really feeling great about that moment and getting to be there with everybody. And it was kind of funny because at the end of everyone just laughing and lots of fun. I mean, I felt like everyone just connected so well. But towards the end of the lunch, it was like, when everything was winding down, it's kind of like the nerves started hitting. I felt it for me. I kind of felt it among those of us who were racing, that it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, now this is over, and now the hard part's coming tomorrow, and now we just kind of get ready and wait, the calm before the storm feeling. So left the lunch, and then after that, pretty much just did our own thing, my husband and myself, and that's, everyone went their separate ways. And we ended up going back to the hotel. We went to 7-Eleven. I got a muffin, had some Gator Light. I was trying very hard all day to keep staying hydrated and, eat the right things, eat a lot of carbs, definitely carbo loading. I had lemonade at lunch that was like super sugary, and that's all I was thinking, like, okay, this is a lot of carbs in here. And then, just kind of relaxed in the afternoon. And then we ended up ordering room service, because that's what I like to do, is just kind of have a bigger lunch and maybe put a little bit more energy into that, and then just chill in my room for dinner time. So that's what we did. We had shared some spaghetti. I wanted to take in carbs, but I always try to not overdo it at dinner time. So I felt like we did a good job with that. During this time, I had this kind of feeling of not feeling great, like almost like fever was coming on, but I've had this before. So I feel like it was very psychological, or this is what I was telling myself. But I also asked my friend Renee if she could bring me some ibuprofen, and I got 4 from her, and I took 2 then, and then I was gonna have 2 just in case, to have with me just in case for the next morning if I kind of had the same feeling. Because I felt like, okay, if this is like something coming on, a fever or something, like I want it to go away, right? And then that night before bed, my stomach was kind of feeling off. I wasn't feeling great. I couldn't connect it to anything. My stomach didn't feel good. And again, I just chalked it up to this is nerves, and that's all it is. I ended up sleeping for like 4.5 hours straight, which I was saying to my friends in the morning. I'm like, at least it wasn't disjointed sleep. I'd rather have like a long period of interrupted sleep, I guess, even if it was short. And I don't know, I just expect that the night before a marathon anyway. I wouldn't expect to sleep that well. So I woke up at 3, and I basically just laid there. I read my book a little bit, tried to go back to sleep, couldn't. And so I ended up getting up, I think around 4:20. We were meeting in the lobby at 5:15. So I had plenty of time to get ready, get all of my things together, We had a bag check bag. I wasn't planning to bag check because my husband was there. And so he was going to be able to like have my warm clothes after this, some other stuff. So I didn't feel like I needed to do the bag check, but I threw everything in there because that's the only bag you're allowed to bring in there. So all my gels, water bottles, salt tablets, some food, anything like that. That was all in there. And yeah, the morning went smoothly. I felt good. Yeah, everything seemed fine and great. So we walked over. You're allowed to enter starting at 5:30 because our wave went off at 7:30. So 2 hours before, which they recommend, which I do recommend. Yeah, getting there early because getting through security took a long time. And the thing that we had heard before from some people was that you can bring in water bottles as long as they're sealed. Other people had said no, and come to find out when we get up there, we were very lucky because the person checking in our bags, he didn't say anything about the water bottles that we had. He just checked our bags, let us go. But the woman next to us was not letting anyone through with even sealed water bottles. And so you just kind of don't know what you're going to get. And that is what we had heard. Like you're at the mercy of whatever the security person decides in that moment. So we had our things. We went and sat on the steps. We had plenty of time. I used the bathroom. I'm putting together my tailwind because I had to like make that. I had the powder separate since I have the sealed water bottles. We're all kind of doing that thing, munching on graham crackers, things like that. Used the bathroom once during that time and then ended up using the bathroom again later, which is always the stressful part. To me, that's the most stressful part before races is the porta potty line. I feel like I have to go multiple times and I got to go twice and I wanted to go 3 times. So Brittany, my athlete, and I, we stood in a line for a very long time and we knew that we had to be in the corrals by 7:20, that they would close it at 7:20. So we were in line for probably 20 minutes. It was bad. So just know the lines get pretty intense there. I mean, yeah, you can imagine it's so many people. So at 7:12, we kind of freaked out and decided we needed to go in the corral. Come to find out, there were actually porta potties in the corral. So I had heard some people say there were, some people say that there weren't. I think it kind of depends on what you define as the corrals. So you had to be in what they define as the corrals. That said for us, we were wave D, corral D, whatever you want to call it. C and D. So you had to be in that space. They were going to close that off at 7:20. Well, once you get into that space, there were porta potties, but then there's another fence where you actually feel like you're in the corral moving forward, that you go through. There are not porta potties there, but I should have gone. If we would have known that, we would have been in the line for the ones inside and we totally would have been able to have time to go. The lines weren't even as long in there. And I should have even gone then because it took forever to get in. Yes, we start at 7:30, but our corral didn't even start until I think like 7:40. So anyway, I would have had time is the bottom line. But this is what comes from experience. I'll know these things for next time. Hopefully it will help you for if you run Chicago. All right, so it's race time. We're getting close to the start. I feel good. I have all my fuel. I had 7 gels on me and then an 8.5-ounce bottle of Tailwind. And then I also had a 14-ounce handheld with water. And in that moment, that's when I realized that I had thrown away my salt tablets. So the bag that I had, I just had throwaway clothes, got rid of all those. And I realized that I never took them out of the bag and put them on myself. So I didn't have them. Definitely like a moment of freak out, but also reminding myself it's not warm today. I mean, literally, guys, the temperature, the weather could not have been better. It was nice and cool. I had my ear warmer on and my gloves and I was shivering a little bit, but perfect race weather, cold to stand in, perfect race weather. So I'm like, it's okay. And I have sodium, in the Tailwind, there's a good amount. And I have a couple gels. The Huma Electrolyte Plus ones have a lot of sodium. So it's going to be fine. It's okay. Right. And so gun went off, we start, and it's exactly like everybody says in terms of GPS, it is completely off. You cannot rely on it. And so yeah, we're just running along, and something else I'd heard, that you see all of these men peeing on the side of the road once you get into the tunnel, as if they're like hidden because they're over there peeing on the side of the tunnel. Yes, there were so many of them. I was just thinking, like, this is not fair that they get to do this. But it is what it is. And yeah, I don't know. I felt fine in the beginning. I felt when I say fine, I felt like how I feel in the beginning of marathons. And that's not amazing. I felt like this in Boston as well, where it takes me a few miles. It takes me a few miles to warm up. I'm very used to like negative splitting, and I'm very used to a slow warm up. So for me, obviously not having any sort of slow warm up, the beginning of the marathon feels like the warm up. And so that's okay. I didn't really think anything of it. Just, it was kind of normal-ish, and it's going to improve and get better. So I was really at that time trying to take everything in. I try to just relax during that time and yeah, take in the sights around me. I felt like I did a pretty good job of that early on. It was also very overwhelming. I do get overwhelmed when in these big crowds, so many people. That's how I felt my first time in Boston. I definitely felt that way this time as well. I think, that's partially the reason for kind of me feeling that way in those first couple of miles, is just trying to calm myself down. And then I saw my athlete, Melissa, who was spectating around mile 2. We barely saw each other. This is very much how it is in Chicago, because there's just so many people. You're like scanning, trying to find your people. And it's next to impossible to see them. And especially if they're wearing something that's, just black or dark blue, like what everybody's wearing. She saw me at the last minute. She yelled out to me. I said hi. She had a poster that she made for our Ready Set Marathon team, which was amazing. So she was the first person that I saw. And then after that, knew I probably wasn't going to see anyone for quite a while, but I didn't really know where everyone was posted. I just knew I might see anyone, I guess, at any time. So it was kind of around like the 4 to 5 mile mark where I just kind of felt like things were not clicking along like they should, but I didn't think too much of it yet. Just kind of like, just take your fuel, keep doing your thing. You're fine, this is all normal. So I took a gel at 30 minutes, and then I took another gel at 60 minutes. I mean, that was my plan, every 30 minutes. And then I just kind of started feeling full. I mean, maybe around 7 or 8 was when I'm like, I just feel full, and I just don't feel like, I told my husband later, like, I just never felt like I had like any giddy up and go. Like, it just never came, it was not bad. It wasn't like terrible or anything. I just didn't feel like I could like have the leg turnover that I'm used to having, trying to like push down to those 8s just below them a little later on. That took a lot out of me to try to do that. Whereas I knew it should not have been feeling like that. So around the 15K mark, when I came in through the 15K, I was like, okay, I like my time right here. It's fine. Like, got a lot of room, and we'll just make it up. Like, it's fine. But the other side of me was also like, I don't feel right. Like, I don't feel like how I normally should feel at this point in time. And by then I would have taken another gel. So I was 3 gels in at this point. And it was just, that's all I can explain it as. I felt full. My stomach I literally looked down, my stomach just looked round. Like I was not digesting anything. And I felt like my body wasn't utilizing the carbs that were in those gels. Like I didn't feel like I was getting the energy that I needed. Okay, I don't know, this is weird. I've never felt like this before. And then my husband texted me at some point telling me he was going to be around mile 12 to 13. And when I got to that point, I saw my coach at like 12, just again, barely in passing. She screamed, I saw her just barely, got a wave in. And she told me later, like, yeah, I could just tell, like you did it just with your paces and stuff and the way you looked. I could tell you weren't quite right. And then when I saw my husband, I was just kind of thinking, because like the half marathon point is so important. Like you should still be feeling good when you come in through there. It shouldn't feel hard. I was like, this doesn't feel hard, but it doesn't feel good. And it doesn't feel like I have any oomph going into this. I did like a water bottle exchange with him and I didn't see anyone else for the rest of the time. Not that I knew that then, but that was the last time I saw somebody. They were there. I just didn't hear them or see them.
Coach Jane! Jane Springsteen! Go Jane!
So around mile 14 was when I really knew this was just an off day. I mean, I felt like I had to just put my head down and grind for almost the majority of it. Like I said, even at like mile 5, 6 started to be like, I don't know, this just doesn't seem right. I just felt like I was sort of in a tunnel, and I really didn't pay attention to anything that was going around me, because I just felt like I had to focus in so much and use so much mental energy just to keep my legs going and moving. And so I ended up taking a 4th gel when I was supposed to, around 2 hours. And yeah, it just felt bad. That just doing one more gel, I'm like, I'm so full. And I've had my tailwind at this point, and I've been trying to hydrate well the whole time. I, had done all my water that I switched out with my husband. I started even earlier on doing the hydration stations because I just felt like I needed it. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard like thinking back through it all, because it was not a fun experience for me, and it felt very out of control. And reflecting back on it, I think that is something that has gone so well for me in my other marathons, that I've gotten really good at controlling how things go along the way. And I'm very rigid and controlled in my training. And when I stepped up on the starting line for Chicago, I was very confident in my training. I was never like overly confident in what I could do. I just felt ready. I felt in a good way. Like that's how I felt before Boston, and everything turned out great. And I felt very ready before Chicago. I said in my live, like I wanted 327s, like anything, the low 328, honestly, a PR, I just would have been thrilled about. And I felt very out of control very early on, and I didn't like that. And I had to turn it into something that I could control, which was mentally staying in it and just reminding myself like, okay, this is going to be a grind, head down. You got to get there. You got to make the best of it, because your stomach is clearly telling you today that this is how it's going to be. And yeah, it just didn't feel good. So I don't know. I'm like, why this happened, I have no idea. It's almost like it would be easier for me if I could go back and say like, this is the thing of why this happened, so I can fix it for next time. Like that feels very controlled to me, right? But right now it's like, no, I don't even know why this happened. I didn't do anything differently than what I did for training in the past. I do think I get kind of complacent about practicing my nutrition well in long runs. I could be better about that. So that's something to think about going forward, but it's always been fine in the past. The only time I had anything similar to this, like really ever in the last few years, was in my last 20-mile long run in this block. And it was very warm that day. So I just chalked it up to that. This was similar, not as bad as that 20-mile long run. That was pretty bad. But this was similar in the fact that I felt very full. I felt like I wasn't digesting anything. And in that 20-miler, I know that it was a dehydration component. I don't know if that played a part here or not. But just to say, like, yeah, I just felt like my body wasn't using the carbs. I felt like I was in like this mini wall almost the whole time. Like I never hit a wall. It never felt like that. It was just sort of this constant, just in a little wall, like the whole time. Like I didn't like fall off pace a ton, but I couldn't hit pace either. For the whole of the race, I was like in the 8s, averages 8s for every time I crossed a pad on there, but they did get slower towards the end, at least up until the 40K. So I quit taking any nutrition after the 2 hour mark, the 4, because I did start to feel like if I eat anything else, I'm going to throw up. There were moments of that, but I just tried to mentally like push that away and just keep going. I mean, that's what I was telling myself, like one foot in front of the other. Like, you got to just keep going. You know, the only way you're going to get to the finish line is by moving forward. You're not going to let yourself walk. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, yeah, of course, those thoughts were in my brain. Like, it would just feel better if I could just slow down, if I could just walk. And it's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. And so I did try to take one gel later. I don't really remember when it was. Maybe mile 19, because that was definitely 19 was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna like get through 7.2 miles. This seems so far away. But just keep grinding. But I tried to take another gel. I took one bite of it. Absolutely not. I cannot do this. And so, yeah, I mean, there ended up being obviously a lack of good fueling for me as well. And I just, I let that go. Like, I can't take in more. So all you got to do is just control what you can, and that's keep going. And I quit looking at my watch actually around 17, because that's when I really knew. I would say 16, 17 was when I really knew, like, this is not happening. I'm not getting any sort of boost of energy. I'm not in control of like this pacing right now, like I have been in the past of like, yes, we're going to have the easy start and the smooth middle and the strong finish. Like, I've controlled that super well. I've like learned how to do that really well. This was not that. And yeah, can take a lot away from that and learn something from that for sure. I think the hardest part in that too was like, I put a lot of pressure on myself as just a runner and what I want to achieve for myself, but there's a lot of pressure involved in also being a coach and having a voice on a YouTube channel and sharing best strategies. Like, I should be able to execute this perfectly, like I know how, like what's wrong with me? So there was a lot of that feeling in that moment, and like trying to just push that away and know that that doesn't matter. But I would be lying if I said there wasn't that happening. And yeah, it was hard. And okay, so I ended up running through the finish line at 3:38:04. This is my time. And I realize very much so that people would be like, oh, well, I would give anything for that time. Or, yeah, I can say to myself, yeah, I still qualified for Boston. In fact, that was like a very superficial reason or superficial motivator for me to just go as hard as I can. Those last couple miles was like, just get under 3:40. Just, you can at least say then you still qualified for Boston, and you can like have something out of this that you're happy about, which I get. Like, I know that doesn't sound good. I just want to be honest. So, and in my head too, I'm like, well, that won't even be enough buffer to get into Boston, but like, whatever. That became the goal. The other thing that really motivated me and kept me going were I had 2 people's names written on my arm for Sal, for Sue. They are going through incredibly difficult things in their life. I know that they would be giving anything to be able to be in my position and be at this race or be running or be doing a marathon. And that just really kept me going too. So it's kind of like I had a very superficial reason, and it was also reminding myself, like, this is not hard. There are hard things in life, and this is not hard. Like, this is a fun thing that you chose to do. These people are going through really hard times, so keep running for them. And that carried me for sure. So I crossed the line at 3:38, and the feeling was pure relief. Like I kind of alluded to and said, like, this one wasn't fun for me. And like the last like 5 marathons that I've done, they're all hard. They're very hard. They're very challenging. I really push myself in them. But there's a good balance of a huge challenge and fulfillment and enjoyment in the process. And I didn't have that. I didn't feel like I could really experience the city. And like, I'm so grateful for the spectators and the volunteers. Like, it's so amazing. I just didn't feel like I could take that in. In fact, at one point, a woman said to me, we ran through this certain area. I don't remember where it was. And she said, "Oh my gosh, that was so electric." And I felt sad because I didn't have that feeling. I was so happy for her because I've been there. I know exactly what she means. And I didn't have that feeling, and I wanted it so bad. And looking back now, it's like, that's why I feel really, really proud of this race, is because I know how bad I was feeling and how the experience was just really hard to get through. And that I was asking myself, like, is this the best you can do? Are you giving your very best? Yes, the answer is yes. Like, I know I can't do more than what I'm doing. So just keep grinding, keep going. That's all you can ask for. And so just pure relief crossing the finish line. Really proud of still what I created, and also that feeling of disappointment. And I've kind of thought through this of like, no, don't be disappointed. And like I said, like, some people could give anything to be able to be in that position or whatever, but like, I'm human. That's a normal feeling, and I'm allowed to feel like that too. I have thought a lot about this. I have so much perspective. Like, I get that this is just running. It can be just running, and I can have great perspective on what's important in life and still be allowed to feel those feelings. Like, people can't take that away from us. We're human. I put a lot of heart and soul into my running. I've spent hours upon hours upon hours, getting to this point, and worked very hard. And so I have felt the feelings and decided, like, I can feel that way. It's okay to feel that way. And I can still be happy and sad about the time at the same times. I'm thinking, like, gosh, my 25-year-old self who ran a 5-hour marathon has come so far and would be amazed to see what I was able to create the other day on a bad day. Like, if that's my bad day, if that's my worst day, like, I gotta still feel good about that. And I do. And I can also wish it would have gone differently. If really, you guys, I'm truly saying, like, it's not about the time. I don't care about the time. I wish the experience would have been different. I wish it could have been more joyful, because I do this for fun. I do it to work hard. I do it to challenge myself. And I also want to find joy in that. And I just wish I would have had that. So I don't like when I've heard like other coaches on podcasts or whatever say, like, you get 24 hours to feel this way and then you need to move on, or you get 1 week to feel this way. But like, I don't think anybody gets to tell you that. I don't think anybody gets to decide and say, you get to feel these feelings for this long and this is how it should be. Like, we are all different. We are human. We're going to have those feelings. It's normal. And I do think it is important to take that maybe disappointed, sad energy and push it into something else next. And I think for me, it's also hard because I've worked hard this whole year working with a coach of like, try to get under sub 3:30. And I did that at Boston. I even said, like, for this, like, yes, I have a time goal, but I'm also like not going to put a lot of pressure on myself. And that's also but I also knew I was capable. I knew I stepped up to the line knowing I was capable of like a 3:27. I know the fitness was there. My stomach had other plans and I couldn't control that. And that is what it is. So ultimately, I think it's hard because I am feeling like I'm sort of on this verge of, I am getting older. I'm not going to just be like setting PRs forever. So I think there is some, I don't know, for lack of a better word, grief there. Like, not the typical grief we think of, but just like, what's in the past and how that changes for the future. And again, I think it's okay to have these feelings, and um like not giving power to that, but also knowing that I did have an expectation for what I wanted this to kind of be, just because I want next year to not be so much pressure on myself and trying to get a time goal. So there is that element as well. So I hope that this kind of gave some true feelings of just, yeah, what the marathon is. It doesn't owe you anything. If you want to be a runner, if you want to run marathons, you got to take the good with the bad. And we know that it takes getting uncomfortable to grow. And that doesn't just mean getting uncomfortable by like training hard. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, like it was for me, and working through something that I couldn't control and turning it into something that I could control in the best way possible. So, but just really grateful for the experience. Chicago was amazing. I already have feelings of like, I want to go back and do that better. I want to take more in and be able to take in the city, because it is a really cool race. And yeah. Anyway, just to cap off the weekend, we yeah, I had my athletes did amazing. It really was like such a great day for everybody. I had one athlete who finished her first marathon, and she's actually my original athlete. So just to see her finish her first marathon was absolutely amazing. And it was not just about myself by any means this weekend. And to be able to share those emotions with people and realize that it's not about the race times and even the finish lines, but it's about the community, the running community, the joy that comes out of that. I think that being in this space, these people make the world a better place, whether that's people who are in the race or spectating. It was just a very joy-filled weekend among times, the world we live in that can feel very hard, and that there's a lot of bad. And it's a reminder that there's a lot of good. So just to be able to be in that experience, I'm very grateful for. I'm very grateful to be able to do this. It is not lost on me at all how privileged that I am to be able to go to Chicago and run a marathon and have these experiences. I'm very lucky. Yes, I work hard, but I'm also very lucky. And I think it's important to recognize both of those things. And I absolutely went home with a very full heart. And I think you can have a mixture of emotions in these experiences. We are allowed that. We're allowed that space. That's kind of what I came home feeling, a little bit bittersweet. And also knowing that what I was able to experience on Saturday was nothing like I've ever experienced in my whole life. Be able to create this coaching business that I've created and have the athletes on the team that I do, and to have this team, these incredible people, I'm just thankful. So thanks for being here and watching, guys. Thanks for always supporting the YouTube channel. It means a lot to me, and we'll keep going. The thing I kind of keep thinking in my mind is the rest is still unwritten. This is why we do this journey. It wouldn't be a journey without some of these upsets and hard parts, right? If we always knew what was coming, if we could just make it be the way that we wanted it to be, that wouldn't be life, and it wouldn't be very fun. So I just encourage you guys to keep getting out there, keep showing up, do the best that you can. And at the end of the day, that's all that we can do.